Hey guys, Jamie, the Summer Rain channel. Welcome back. Today we're going to go ahead and learn how to make lotion. Now, I know making lotion can sound awfully scary, and there's phases and there's a lot of ingredients and there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. However, trust me when I say that it's really not that complicated, and it just feels that way until you start making it. So when I first started making lotion, I was so afraid that I was going to mess it up that I did mess it up. I recommend starting with a beginner lotion and then working your way up. I think the one that I'm making today doesn't have a whole lot of ingredients, but it is a lovely lotion, and I think you are going to absolutely love it. It's going to build your confidence in making your own skincare, and I'm super excited to share this with you today. So there's a few different reasons why I love making my own lotion. Number one, aside from the fact that I feel really cool when I do it, number one, it is super simple to make. Like at first I used to be so nervous about making lotion, but once I got the hang of it, once I realized, hey, these same steps are gonna go in every lotion you make, now it's super simple to do, and you realize the process is the same no matter how many ingredients you have in it. The second thing that I love is it gives you control over the ingredients. So if you wanna have control over exactly what you're putting on your skin, making your own lotion is a great way to do that, and it's actually budget friendly. So you would think that making your own lotion is going to be awfully expensive, when in reality it's not. Once you have the ingredients, you can make quite a bit of lotion with just a few ingredients. So lotion's going to have a few different phases, the same as like when you're baking something and you might have a dry phase, and that's where your flour and your salt and your other dry ingredients are going to go, and then you'll have a wet phase where maybe your butter would go or your oil would go and different wet ingredients would go. Making lotion is the same way. We are going to have a water phase and an oil phase. Both the water and oil phases get heated. So the water phase is heated, the oil phase is heated, and then you typically have a cool down phase. And those are the three phases that make up a lotion. So in our water phase, we have all of our distilled water. We also have any water soluble ingredients that are not heat sensitive. By that, I'm going to mean the vegetable glycerin or the sodium lactate or any other ingredients that are water soluble that are not heat sensitive. In this recipe, I'm actually going to be using sodium lactate, and the cool thing about that is sodium lactate is a humectant, which means that it holds and draws moisture to your skin, and it can actually hold about twice as much moisture as vegetable glycerin can. If you don't have sodium lactate, it's fine to go ahead and supplement that for vegetable glycerin, or glycerin would be fine too. Next, we have our oil phase. So there are a few different things that are going to go into our oil phase. One of those are our carrier oils. So carrier oils are oils that are liquid at room temperature. And normally in rinse off products, I'm like, hey, don't be using your expensive oils in this. In a lotion, you definitely want to use your better, more expensive oils. And this is because it's a leave-on product. Anytime you're making a leave-on product, go ahead and use a more expensive oil, because you're going to get all of the benefits that oil has to offer. In addition to carrier oils, often in a oil phase, we're also going to have our solid butters, so cocoa butter, shea butter, mango butter, any type of butter you might be using in your lotion. Butters are often used because of the benefits that they bring, and also to help thicken the lotion up a little bit. We all know that oil and water is not going to mix on its own, so we also need to use an emulsifier. Now, what an emulsifier is it is something that's going to take a little bit of water, and it's going to take a little bit of oil, and it's going to go ahead and hold them together. So it has one end that loves water, one end that loves oil, and it holds everything together so your product does not separate. For my emulsifier, I'm going to be using Olive 1000. This comes from an olive tree, and typically, in addition to having an emulsifier, we also have a co-emulsifier, right? So the co-emulsifier is used to help stabilize the emulsion, because we do not want this to separate, and typically it's going to help thicken it up a little bit. Now, I'm going to use cetyl alcohol as my co-emulsifier. I did want to make a quick note on waxes, because emulsifying wax is also an emulsifier, so typically people are going to think that waxes are emulsifiers, and they're not. So if you think about beeswax or candelilla wax or any other type of wax on its own, and you want to use that in your lotion, that is not going to be an emulsifier. It can be used in a lotion because it has some benefits, but the benefit is not as an emulsion. If you take beeswax and you try to make this recipe, it is never going to hold the water and the oil together. It will always separate unless if you have an emulsifier in here. On my blog, I go a little bit more in depth about this, so if you're a little bit confused or if you need more suggestions, feel free to hop over there to get a little bit more information. Next, let's go ahead and go to the cool down phase. Now, what goes into a cool down phase is typically the heat sensitive ingredients. One of the ingredients that we would use in a cool down phase is our preservative. So since we have water in this formula, it is absolutely essential that we use a preservative, because if you don't use a preservative, you're going to be growing some mold and some bacteria, and they're pretty quick. Not all preservatives are bad. Like, they're not this nasty ingredient that you never want to use. They're actually used to help keep us safe. There's so many different options for preservatives, so feel free to choose the one that works best for you. And then in here is the fun stuff. So also in the cool down phase is your fragrance, where you'll really get to customize something super simple. And there's so many fragrance oils and essential oils that you can use. One note on essential oils is make sure that the ones that you're using are skin safe for leave-on products. So think about clove and cinnamon. Those essential oils you could not use in a lotion because they're not safe in a leave-on product. So just read the instructions on the ingredients you're using. Another thing that I love to add to my lotion is just a little bit of coloring. It really just, I don't know, changes the overall appearance for me. Now, if you don't want to add any, you don't have to, but you certainly can if you'd like. Okay, just a quick note before we hop in and start making our lotion. In order to get the best product possible, we want to make sure that we start out with some hygiene. And by that, I mean you want to make sure that your work area, all your equipment, and everything that you'll be using has been cleaned and sanitized. I mean, we're not going to have a completely sterile environment because that's not really possible when you're making lotion at home, but you do want to make sure it's clean as possible. So make sure that you clean your work area, that you sterilize all of your ingredients and tools that you will be using. You really want to make sure when making a lotion that you're being as precise as possible. So it's very important that you use a scale and you weigh out all of your ingredients. Okay, let's dive in and learn how to make our lotion. I did want to let you know that I did put the full recipe down in the description box down below. I also put a link to my blog. So on my blog, I go a little bit more in depth about all the ingredients, other ingredients you can use, good substitutes, everything like that. There's also a printable recipe on there for you. So if you'd like a little bit more information than I give in this video, feel free to hop over to my blog post. Also, if you like my videos and it's something that you want to see something new, or you have suggestions or something like that, feel free to make a comment down below, or you can also hop over to my Patreon. On there, I do release the videos a little bit earlier than I do on my YouTube channel, and it gives you an opportunity to get formulating questions answered. You know what I'm saying. So if you want to hop over to my Patreon, I do have some more stuff on there. If you don't, the videos are also released on here. Here's the ingredients that we're going to use in this lotion. Now, looking at all of these ingredients, it can feel overwhelming. So let me go ahead and break this down a little bit for you. There, this has to be a little bit better. This is our first phase. So this is our water phase. And what I have is distilled water. So what distilled water is, it's water that has been run through a still, and the only thing that is left is water. So this is just pure water. All of the bacteria that might be in there, any metals, anything like that, has been removed from the distilled water. So you always want to make sure that you use it. If for some reason that you don't have some, you can use tap water, but I do recommend distilled water. Our next ingredient is sodium lactate. So sodium lactate is a humectant, which means that it's going to draw and hold moisture to your skin. Now, if you don't have this, you can substitute it for vegetable glycerin or glycerin. Since this is water soluble, I'm going to go ahead and add it to our distilled water. And I'm just going to set this off to the side while we work on our oil phase. In the heated oil phase, for my carrier oil, I'm going to use jojoba oil. Now, this closely resembles the sebum that your skin produces naturally, and it is a lovely oil. For my butter, I'm using shea butter. I'm using refined shea butter, but you can certainly use unrefined if you prefer. I just don't love the earthy smell of it. Oop. Next, we have All of Them 1000, which are these little flakes. This is going to be our emulsifier. So what an emulsifier does is it goes ahead and it gets the oil and the water phase to combine together. And then the last ingredient that I have here is cetyl alcohol. Now this is a co-emulsifier. So the All of Them 1000, which was these flakes of emulsifier, is going to be our main emulsifier. This one's going to help this emulsifier work, and it's also going to make the lotion just a little bit thicker. What I'm going to do is go ahead and turn my stove on to a low temperature, and we are going to place a double boiler on here. Now for a double boiler, what I use is I just use a saucepan with a little bit of water, and then I have a mat in here. In here, we're going to place both our water phase and our oil phase ingredients, and we're going to allow these to go ahead and heat up until the oil phase is completely melted. Now that everything has melted, I'm going to go ahead and remove these from the double boiler. Now I'm just going to use this container with the spout to mix in. So we'll take our water phase, pop it in there, Take our oil face. And we'll get all of that in with the water. And then we'll go ahead and grab our immersion blender, and we'll give this a good mix with the immersion blender. Oftentimes when you're very first starting to mix this, you're going to want to start out with small bursts so it doesn't go flying everywhere at you. Now I'm going to allow this to cool in here just for a couple of minutes, and then we'll come back and mix it again. And the reason why I want this to cool down just a little bit is it's very hard to mix. So as you can see, this is very watery, and we want to give it just a little bit of time to thicken up before we come in and mix it again. I've let this cool down for about 5 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and hit it again with the immersion blender. As you can see, it's starting to thicken up a little bit. And now it's more the consistency of a lotion. Now this is going to thicken up more as it cools. Now I'm just going to give this a really good mix, and then we'll see what the temperature is. And I'm at 129 degrees. I have to let this cool down to at least 121 degrees. It says below 122 for my preservative. I'm using Germall Plus, so we're gonna have to let this cool down just a little bit more before we can add our cool down ingredients. While this is cooling down, I'll go ahead and go over the cool down ingredients. So I have vitamin E oil, which is good for helping keep the oils from going rancid. It is not a preservative, but it's good at helping make the oils last a little bit longer. I have my fragrance oil, and I have my preservative. Now you need to have a preservative because we added water in here, and the last thing we want to do is grow some bacteria or some mold in our lotion, so we do need the preservative in this recipe. Let's go ahead and mix this up really well. Check the temperature again. I'm at 116. So I'm going to go ahead and add my fragrance oil, vitamin E oil, and at the same time my preservative. And I'm just going to go ahead and give this a really good mix just to get everything fully incorporated. If you wanted to add a color to this, now would be the time to do it. Now, normally I love adding color to my lotion because I feel like it just adds a little something, but I'm not going to this time. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it uncolored. This is going to be too thick to get into our bottle, so I'm just going to go ahead and pop it into a baggie. And we'll just go ahead and trim a little bit of the corner off. Now that's going to make it a lot easier to get it into the container. I'm going to leave this uncapped like this until it's completely cooled down. The reason why we don't want to put the lid on it right now is if you put the lid on it, it might get condensation in the lid because this is still above room temperature. And those little water droplets can contaminate your lotion, so they can pool on the top, cause mold and bacteria, stuff like that. So just go ahead and leave it with a lid off until it's fully cooled down. And that's it. That's how you make your own lotion at home. And I know there was a lot of information in this video, and I know that it can be a lot to take in. I would recommend that you don't stress too much when you're making it. When I first started making my own, I was a mess. I would forget to put ingredients in, I would forget to heat some stuff, and it was an absolute mess so many times. But now that I have it down, I whip up a lotion in no time at all. I think it's really important to practice making a simpler lotion and then start adding things in. You can really do so many different things. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoy making and using your lotion as much as I do. Bye.